Season 2 of the PAX Hospitality Podcast is brought to you by OpenTable. Welcome to the PAX Hospitality Podcast. I'm your host, Leon Kennedy, and with me today is my business life partner, Michael Bascetta. Yeah. Nailed the pronunciation on your surname.
Killed it.
First time. Only took a season.
Yeah. It's a season and 10 years.
Season and 10 years. Hey, welcome to Season 2, man.
Amazing.
How do you feel?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like Season 1 was great. Really excited about what we're going to do in Season 2. We should also point out that we're stepping it up this year.
Yeah.
This season, I should say.
You can see us.
Yeah, we're in the studio. Yeah, going video, going to YouTube. Got a shout out to Poster Boy Media.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, legends, absolute best in class in the game. If you're looking to do some video content or make a podcast, hit these guys up. Just make sure your podcast isn't as good as ours.
Yeah, make it just one rung down, guys.
But no, massive props to them. And yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting what we do this season. So today's episode is a topic that I think is really prominent, but kind of this invisible hand in most businesses. It's the topic of governance. And I think a lot of people are just going to get pretty bored or their eyes are going to glaze over. And I'm just going to call you out. Yeah. I'm just going to say, if you think governance is a boring concept, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's all right. Most people don't, but you need to listen to this shit today because it could be the one thing that is literally killing your business and you're not even addressing it.
Amazing. Let's get into it.
Nice. I'm going to start with a hot take.
Hot take?
Yep. All right. So think of this, right? Hospitality businesses ultimately don't fail because they've got a bad product or their marketing sucks. All right. They fail because their decision-making is reactive. And the people that are in charge aren't really in charge at all, right? So if you're making decisions reactively, no one really knows what's going on. Okay, so I think in this sort of climate, right, those suboptimal decisions stack up, right? And bit by bit, they start to mount until the pressure starts to make things crack. What do you think?
When you started off, I was like, this is going to suck. Because I'm like straight away, I'm like, yeah, but if your product's good, even if you make bad decisions around a good product, you're going to be okay, but all the back end's going to suck. Yeah. We know that, right? And the marketing's going to kind of suck and all that sort of thing, but you kind of recovered pretty well. You're right. Like this morning, I told you about the coffee experience this morning I just had. And the cafe I was at, I was very clear what was going on. There was an owner who was in the business on the floor. There was 4 other people on the floor. And I sat down, wasn't seen for 10 minutes. And then he finally came over. So, you've been looked after? And he clearly knew I hadn't. And then he just freaked out.
Right.
And you could see he was just running. He went straight to the table over there. And he was just freaking out.
Okay.
And you could very clearly see he's the owner. And I just had this picture of how that business was being run outside of service. And I was like, this guy's struggling.
What's happening in those management meetings?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If they're even having them.
Yeah. And usually it's in those settings that people are reacting like you're saying.
Yeah,
so that quick, we got to fix it. Let's try and fix it without thinking of the bigger picture.
Think a bit more critically, right? I think if your product is not good, it's you can solve all those things, right? And if your marketing sucks, you can fix all those things, but get to the root of the problem, right? You can hire the best product person to come in and help you with your product strategy.
Yeah.
But if the governance in the business is not productive, then everything else is going to, fail downstream, or you've kind of hit this ceiling on what you can do. So
I mean, we've seen it time and time again, right? In the past, when you go in with some pretty clear strategies, whether it's product related, marketing related, whatever, and you'll have spot fires of success. Yeah. But with poor governance, people aren't following it through in all aspects of their business. So you might have a great product strategy, but governance is really bad. Therefore, something like HR will be really bad. Yeah. And you aren't able to retain the great people to execute on the product strategy. Yeah. So then it drops off a cliff.
Yeah, you're swimming against the current.
Exactly.
So I think the way that I kind of think about it is that, governance is the invisible force in your business, right? And it's either helping you run things well or it's running things into the ground.
Sure.
All right. And if you aren't even aware of governance as a concept, right? The thing is, right, governance is statistically correlated with long-term success, right? It forces you to make more responsible decisions. So it's therefore kind of shaping your future, right? You could argue that it therefore makes the world a better place. And it's not that fucking hard to get your head around. Right. So I think for people out there that think of governance as a boring concept, like you just don't know. Right. Like that's all. And that's okay. Like most people don't know. But this is literally the thing that could be surreptitiously killing your business slowly day by day. And no one is talking about it.
Yeah.
So I think we unpack it today.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think people might find it boring, but also they don't really understand what it is as you're saying. But they also see it as a very corporate thing. Right? And in Australia, where I think the numbers are around 90 to 95% of the industry is independent, we're not full of groups. We don't have the size. Then you have a lot of independent operators that see governance as this thing that just the big groups do or chains do or whatever. Yeah, it's not really for me. Yeah, even though they might be at 20 million and don't really have a strategy and don't have a board and all that sort of stuff. You know, a small operator would see them as the big guys, and I think there's this huge gap when people are growing that stop thinking or keep thinking about them being as a small business rather than actually should be pretty sophisticated by now.
So I see your point about, you know, we're not ready for that. Yeah. And I'll raise it right with people that have also been burned. Totally. Okay, so sometimes there's like, you know, you'll see someone come in a little bit keen. Yeah. All right. And then they try to implement this probably overly corporate structure into a business that isn't just ready for it. Yeah. You know, and what happens in that scenario, right? The decision making becomes more rigid. Okay. Everything becomes a little bit harder. And then it just becomes noisy. It's not productive. And that can actually be counterproductive, right? Like that's an example of governance being implemented wrong and therefore having an adverse effect, right? So to me, governance is two things. It's like you've got to implement a system and then you've got to really refine that system. Mm-hmm. And in those instances of people that have been burned, it's like they implemented a system, but they never really refined it. Yeah. And then they just went, it's not for us or this doesn't work. You know, it's like this is too corporate, so I'm never doing it again. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy because it's like, you know, I like, as you know well, I think about everything according to motorcycle analogies.
Oh no, here
but, but in my mind, it's like, you know, you've got like a Ninja 300 and you go, all right, I'm going to put like the engine from a BMW S1000 RR in it. It's not going to go. And then you go, well, engines obviously don't work in motorcycles. Right? That's not the way to look at it. Okay, like
that is the most niche reference, even for you. That's going deep on motorcycles.
There's going to be like 3 people listening.
Everyone's like,
damn, that was good. But no, there's like, you know, in my mind, it's about finding the right engine for the right vehicle, right? So that's making that metaphor a bit simpler. I think people do one of two things. They either go, oh no, we're not big enough to worry about that yet. We don't need it. Or they've just had a bad experience with it in the past. Either of those positions are dangerous, right? They're risky positions to take when it comes to running your business in the best, most responsible way. And I think what would be really good today is to just lay that out a little bit and maybe just, you know, to set it up for a little bit of context, right? Like, I don't think it matters, right? So if you are, you know, on one end of the spectrum, right, where you're in maybe a group, you're doing, say, over 10 mil at least a year in annual revenue, you got a few venues, that sort of jazz, right? I mean, at that juncture, you should at the very least have an advisory board with someone who chairs it, you know, with an ops team that are putting a lot of elbow grease into that agenda, you know, and probably a monthly cadence, right, or a 6-week cadence, right? But you need to be playing that game, right? But you could also just be a single owner-operator, right? And governance is still for you, right? What that probably looks like, though, is not an advisory board, but you still need a sounding board. Okay, so you need that trusted advisor that you ring every week or every couple of weeks where you just talk about the business, right? And maybe it's a regular who comes in who knows heaps about, you know, scale, or maybe it's someone you went to school with or someone in your family. As long as you are just ringing someone who is external, you know, to the business and, you know, you're getting some advice, that's governance, right? Yeah. Like that's kind of helping you think things through. It's increasing your standard of decision making. So in my mind, right, whether you are single owner operator or you're talking about potentially putting together an advisory board or running it better, everything we talk about today is going to be fitting, right? You just got to position it from that perspective, right? From that example. And I think within that, it's also important to note like how you connect those ends of the spectrum, right? Like in my mind, whether you're presenting to a board, whether you're just casually ringing a mate for advice, you're trying to accomplish the same things, right? And what that is you're basically trying to portray the headlines of your business that relate to operations, culture, and finance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to be able to portray what are the most important things that are going on in your business right now to a stakeholder that is at least half a degree of separation outside of the business.
Yeah.
That could be an investor, it could be someone who's still, but they need to just be at least half a degree of separation outside of the day-to-day ops.
It's about getting out of the echo chamber, right?
Exactly. It's a really good way to put it, right? And you're just having a conversation, with whatever that sounding board is, whether it's an advisory board or it's just a phone call. That's the goal, right? So today, I think for people that are listening to this that are probably conscious of it, right? Like they hear that statement of like, yeah, decision-making could be killing my business and think, fuck, I want to fix that. This is kind of like the how-to, right? So what I thought we could do is let's actually talk through some of the main points around governance and what it sort of comprises of.
Sure.
And then maybe talk a little bit about how could you set this up? Or if you've got it, like remember I was saying, it said set it up and then refine it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about each of those two things and maybe give people some tips.
Yeah, great.
Something that is also interesting to note is you're quite nicely suited to this topic. I was just thinking about that this morning because you've kind of been through every stage, right? Like you've had the world on your shoulders in small businesses where you've had to run, a sense of governance. Maybe you didn't call it that, but in your businesses. But then you've also run it in bigger businesses. So you've reported to boards. You've also sat on boards. Have you chaired one?
No, I never will.
Never will?
Never will.
Why?
Because I'm the least detail-orientated guy So.
Okay, fair.
And I'm really bad at keeping cadence. So
okay, fair. So you're not a good chair.
Yeah.
I mean, look, maybe we'll talk about it later when we get to that section, but chairing you need to be a specific person to do that.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's often why a lot of, some people will set up, they'll get step one done, they'll set up a system.
Yeah.
But then the second part of refining it doesn't happen, and then the person who's chairing it isn't doing it well enough, and then everything kind of falls apart. But yeah, anyway, I thought that's just how we should structure this today. Any thoughts on that?
No, that's good. Let's get into it.
All right, cool. So first and foremost, right, if we did a little bit of an overview on, governance as it exists in small business, I think we did a good job of explaining it from that lens that like, why people don't look at it. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think the biggest thing is people's kind of adding on to what we already have discussed is people's understanding of governance and the scare factor of it, and ensuring that they're the same people that would speak about HR always in a negative tone,
right?
And they're the same people that speak about having to speak to their accountant in
Yeah.
a negative tone.
Yeah,
It's just
sure.
like there's this layer in business in hospitality that people tend to steer clear of as much as possible. And it's nearly like it's just a chore. It's a constant chore with all these parts of governance. And I think for me, it's just like the classic idea that by getting these things in place, that it kind of sets you free.
Yeah.
Rather than
Sure.
put more roadblocks in front of you.
Yeah. Doesn't create the headwind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point we need to get across today is that by doing this in the right way at the right time with the right structure will actually completely change the way you operate your business and therefore your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I think it's gold. And I think, so I'll tell you a really crazy stat is 1 in 4 businesses in Australia even have like a cognitive or conscious governance function in their business.
I totally believe that.
1 in 4.
Yeah.
And that's not even saying that they're all doing it well.
Yeah.
Right. That's just like 1 in 4 have something like, we meet once a month or we have a board meeting or, we track minutes or something. But out of that 25%, imagine what the stat would be about people that are doing it productively. It's got to be less than half.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's like,
Fuck
20, all.
It'd be 20%.
Yeah. Like hardly anyone is doing this well. You hear all these other stats around like, the closure rate in hospitality and how, over-indexed it is versus other industries and whatnot. And you kind of go, okay, anyone connecting the dots here?
Yeah.
I think what is ironic, right, to go back to that example of the businesses that are just like, oh, we don't need that because we're not ready for it yet. We're not big enough yet. We're not whatever. Ironically, so many of the problems that occur that would be the downfall of some of those businesses could have been prevented
Totally.
if they were doing some type of governance.
Yeah.
Like doesn't have to be, hey, we meet in a boardroom and wear suits and smoke cigars, right?
Yeah.
But even if it's just, hey, once a month we have dinner, as an ownership group with maybe another trusted advisor and we just have a yarn.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's the biggest misconception out there is that governance has to be this all-in corporate, you know, overly engineered mechanism when in reality it can just be a simple sounding board where you just have a consistent conversation. And I think a really good culinary metaphor for that is like, you know, it's better to marinate the meat for 5 minutes than no minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Like some marination, even if it's 2 minutes, is better than no marination, right? So even if you're just thinking about governance and it's like, yeah, okay, you're never going to, you know what? You're probably never going to do a TED talk on it. That's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you're thinking about it and doing something, like that's better than nothing.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think the other thing that I would point out with this is like, it's a very, very important topic. Why the hell didn't we cover this in season 1?
Probably for the same reasons that we spoke about before. It's like
people
it's
just didn't want to hear it. Yeah.
Or perceived to be boring.
Yeah.
But, you know, people perceive finance to be boring. We did that and it went really well.
That's true.
So I think for us, it's just being able to show that it's not boring. It's really important. And there's some things you can implement that are easier than the full board structure or whatever it is.
Look, full disclosure though, like when we first, you know, came up with the pyramid model, right? Governance wasn't on it.
No.
Right. It kind of was, but it just wasn't like clearly articulated.
Yeah.
Right. And within identity, product, consistency, promo, it sits firmly in consistency.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. But when we actually turned it was just something that we would do through the audits, we'd do through the recommendations, but it wasn't like a conscious, oh, you need someone advising you on this.
Yeah.
And what actually prompted us to do that, I'll tell you something kind of crazy, right? Like before we even started PAX, if I'd have said to you, hey, you know, once we get to the 20 audit mark, right? Like once we've done 20 audits, what do you think would be the number one constant in our observations and recommendations, right? Like what would you have guessed?
Mine would probably be something around HR people.
Okay.
Would probably be the number one.
Yeah.
Closely followed by product.
Yeah. Marketing.
I'm
always going to think strategy.
Yeah, you always go there.
But I feel like you could flip a coin on all of those topics, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, you know, 20 audits in and it's literally governance is number one, and then it's daylight, and then it's everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is just constant, man. Like every single audit, it comes up. You know, that the ownership group are not doing anything in the way of governance, or they're doing something and it's not productive.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is big. And so I think, you know,
do we need to change the pyramid?
Well, we added it in.
But does it need to be further? It needs to be lower.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I thought about that. And I think the reason for that is because you don't also, you used a really key term before, right? Like you need to use the appropriate model at the appropriate time. I believe, right, that if you've got a really solid or well-organized governance function, but you don't even have a business yet, that's not necessarily going to help you ideate and take the right risks.
But you could also argue that could be a sprinkling of what we would call governance in identity, in terms of like how you set out.
Yeah,
it's like, to me, a great governance structure can be born out of identity.
I don't disagree. I think you're right, but I think it's not necessarily that easy to articulate until you got some runs on the board.
Totally.
You know, like I think if you sit down, like think about it, for most business owners, no one sits down, writes the mission deck, and then goes and launches it. And even if you did do that, I think within a month or so, you'd render a portion of that mission deck redundant because it wouldn't fit, right? You got to pivot, like business.
I mean, the market will tell you. And
exactly
at the end of the day, like I've always said, even doing like short form business plans, it's like write it, open, and then go back and look at it. And I guarantee 80% of it you're going to adjust.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's okay.
Well,
but you need to start somewhere.
There's unforeseen circumstances. You literally cannot foresee them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like all the planning in the world won't give you perfect execution.
Yeah.
You know, but that's why I think governance needs to sit as an administrative function.
Yeah. Because
it's like, okay, you know, you're going to go out there, you're going to and let's face it, right? Most people that open businesses are kind of psychotic. It's like you are doing something highly illogical. It's pretty irrational. Yeah. You know, I don't know of many businesses out there that your very conservative accountant is going to back you in for.
Yeah.
Mostly lawyers and accountants are going to tell you not to do it.
Yeah.
Mostly everyone in your life is probably going to tell you not to do it. And then what do? You just do it anyway.
I mean, I'm 10 years into owning businesses.
Yeah. And you are a psycho.
I am a psycho. And people still say, when I say, oh, we're going to do this now, They're like,
what?
Really? And I'm like, how is this a surprise? It's been 10 years.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a level of irrationality that comes with ideation and execution of never before done, concepts, right?
Yeah.
So I just think there's a level of freedom and maybe almost irrationality is not the right word. Maybe it's almost irresponsibility.
Yeah.
And so don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that.
I think there should be a streak of irresponsibility always.
Yeah, but
in the right thing, in the right way.
And I'm not trying to say that governance and irresponsibility are trade-offs, right? Mm. It's all about having the right, I think governance is the right engine, but if you haven't built the vehicle yet, you don't know what engine that is or what it needs to look like.
Yeah.
And I would also argue that even within those really nascent kind of periods of a business, that governance is happening informally.
Mm.
Think about when we launched PAX, right? We had our very first day of full-time work at the fucking Greensboro Library.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in that room going, all right, guess we should get an office.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, since that day, there probably hasn't been many days past where we haven't talked.
Yeah, correct.
Right, we don't have an advisory board. We don't have any of the corporate governance structures existing yet because it is so new. But governance is very much there.
Mm.
We're constantly talking about stuff. We're constantly challenging each other on things.
Yeah.
We do get advice from the right people when we need it as well.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think in all businesses this happens, right? It could just be two mates that open a wine bar. They're constantly talking about it. When are they not talking about it?
Yeah.
So governance is kind of happening, right, in a way. So I just think in the startup phase, there is always going to be this organic element of steering the ship in a collaborative way. But then as the business starts to get busy and things start to happen, and suddenly you don't get that FaceTime together anymore, or you're a bit sick of each other, or there's just too many competing factors now, then you got to switch that approach.
Yeah.
And
you start growing, you open a second venue, third venue, and suddenly those 2 or 3 owners, whatever, aren't interacting every day face to face like they were, and they start to get stretched. And because that formal governance layer hasn't been put in yet, then there's no governance.
I think it's a nice way to put it is just a system, right?
Yeah.
When you first start business, not that I would ever recommend this, but you could get away with not having a zero set up, right?
Sure,
and you can do your bookkeeping on a spreadsheet to a point.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're going to get busy and then that is not going to cope anymore.
No.
So think about governance in the same way, right? When you're just starting up and it's just you and a mate or you and an ownership group, it's great, you're going to have constant conversations, you're going to be talking about it, it can be pretty informal, but then as the needs of the business grow, your system for working through those things and making decisions needs to grow with it.
Totally. I mean, I'd take that down to another level of, you would open a restaurant and put systems in place for your order of service and how the bar's set up and your mise en place and all that sort of stuff. It's just that with a bit more formality.
Yeah.
Right? Just think about it as another checklist to get through.
Yeah.
And at whatever juncture, it's every month we need to clean the light fittings. It's every month we need to meet as owners.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a simple thing that's in your monthly checklist.
Yeah, it's a hygiene thing, and that's why it sits in consistency so perfectly. Again, case in point, why we need to do an episode on it, because once you start thinking about it, you can't unsee it as well. And the other thing that I think is so important to note is it doesn't matter, again, if you're in that bigger group thinking about how you can report to a board in a better way, or you're just one person on your own. Think about the risk that comes with decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Man, I just think about so many owner operators out there, and even I would say a lot of the clients that we work with at PAX that would just ring me at 6:30 at night to just talk. Right? It's man, I'm picking up that call every single time, and they'll just be like, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and an hour later, we're still talking, right? And I'm just listening to them, and it's always a really productive chat. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, they really needed that.
Yeah.
And I can just hear it in their voice, because it's man, you're just holding on to all of these decisions that you haven't thought out loud.
Yeah.
At the pressure you are putting on yourself to nail every one of those decisions, you will never be able to do it.
No.
And every time you make a decision that's a bit suboptimal, like I said, right, that is just building up more and more pressure until things start to crack.
And I don't think a lot of people would attribute that to not having the time to think about making the right decisions.
Right.
But I actually don't think, even if that owner got a day a week
Mm.
just for ownership stuff, management, governance, whatever. If they're a sole operator, they will still really struggle to make those decisions.
Sure.
And purely because that echo chamber idea. And I've had PAX, whether it's a PAX client or a mate who's a sole owner, same thing, call me and they're like, I just got to talk through this thing because I don't feel like it's maybe not appropriate to talk to my manager about, because I don't feel like they should know about it or stuff like that. And just like they've got no one to talk to. And
So-
their partner at home is probably fucking sick of doing the same thing. And they're like, you got to talk to someone.
Well, they're just not even qualified, right?
Yeah,
like that's the one thing.
exactly.
It's like you can have that conversation with just a mate, but if they don't really know your industry or don't know much about business, it's just they're
It's
not
hard.
really gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna know how to challenge you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So really interesting. I think like one of the things that I think would be really good to talk about with this is what are the main components, right? So if you go and read all the literature and all the rest of it, you know, I'll try to sort of like summarize it, you know, a little bit. And I think the first thing that, you know, like say you pick 5 articles and you read them all, right? The one thing that'll be represented in all of those articles is the concept of decision making and how governance applies to that.
Sure.
So maybe if I lay that out a little bit, like I'll give you a little bit of context, but then what I think would be cool is share with us an experience that you've had in one of your businesses or whatever where you saw decision making working well or not well as a result of good or bad governance.
Sure.
All right. So decision making is really important. Okay. And again, like I said at the start, if you're just doing it reactively, you know, you're pretty much just like setting yourself up to fail. Okay. So how do you do it in a way where it's not reactive, right? And what it requires is a fair bit of like critical thinking, you know, and I think where this gets particularly interesting is, say we'll stick to the smaller side of the scale, right? You have 2 people that start a business together. More than likely, you complement each other pretty well.
Sure.
You probably have a lot in common, right? You know, even personality traits, all that sort of stuff. And that's good to a point, right? Like it's really good in the sense that you're going to basically be agreeing on a lot of stuff. You'll gather a lot of momentum. You know, you double down on the things that you should. That's awesome. But there's not a lot of diversity in that decision making.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be a real trap, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I feel like in those environments where everyone's really complementary, all right, not maybe to the extent that, you know, decision making is completely based on consensus, but there is just a high level of organic consensus in the discussions. On top of that, you know, I'd notice it sometimes in leadership environments that are quite authoritarian, okay, or you know, it's quite like, you know, there's one leader who's calling the shots and we just like go with it.
Sure.
These are the environments where decision making can really, really, really fuck you up. You know, and before I actually ask you for an example, one thing I just wanted to touch on, I just forgot to mention it before, is, you know, you're saying it's like, you know, just speaking things out loud, you know, and you know, asking, you know, a friend for advice or your partner for advice, or whatever. I just want to say to like all the people out there that are doing that, fucking good work.
Yeah.
Like keep doing that. Right. But if we were to kind of yes and them, like I kind of feel like have those conversations, but just do your best to add a little bit of structure to them.
Sure.
All right. So just maybe sort of say to that person who you ring every now and then, like, hey, you know, I'm going to give you a call on Thursday night, right? And here's the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't tell them, but you just do that yourself.
Yeah.
It's just structuring the conversation a little bit better to protect you from that, you know, what's the word? Reactivity?
Yeah,
Reaction?
or drifting as well.
Reactive thinking? Yeah.
And drifting when you do speak to them and missing the 3 other important things that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So then if I loop that back into the decision-making bit, right, like that's ultimately what you're doing. You're going to speak to someone, you're going to think out loud, you're going to use it as a sounding board, and then ultimately you're going to make a decision. All right. So if you're not even having that chat, you're really, really risking a lot of bias creeping in.
Yeah.
Especially in a really founder-led organization, there's probably going to be, you know, a compromise in the quality of decision making because you haven't done that dialectical inquiry, you know, around what we should do. So tell me how you've experienced that.
It's a lot in a lot of different ways. I think
Does one example jump out?
I think I'd probably say, you know, working when I had all the venues and was still part of the group, Madewell. I think like we never had a clear governance structure. Right?
Okay.
we had, I think it was kind of like monthly catch-ups that would sometimes slide.
Were they productive meetings?
No.
Oh, right.
It was the biggest thing. Like we'd have kind of very, very loose agendas that would just be texted to each other. Half the time didn't get through it. Notes were rarely taken. If they were, we really were very lax in then following up on the next one. Did that get done? Did this get done? How are we going with this? And I think the biggest issue with that is, I think I felt a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah,
because to me, it's like we're already having that owner conversation via WhatsApp and when we see each other anyway. And it was kind of just
ongoing trickle.
It was like doing that, but sitting down.
Yeah,
so it's just like, do we really need this? It's like, yeah, we do, but we need to have it really well structured.
Yeah.
And because there was no clear leader within the ownership structure that was the chairperson or
no one grabbed
the CEO or the general manager or whatever, we never had that. No one grabbed it and said, I'm just going to do this. Right?
Yeah.
And the result of that is slow decision making, bottlenecks, all this sort of stuff that then starts to trickle down into venue manager level and head chef level and affects the running of the business.
So talk me through the cost of that though, because it could be argued that, that was one of the more successful restaurant groups of that era. So no governance at all, but you still had a bunch of hits. How did that work?
I mean, hits from a product delivery perspective and in venue and brand and that sort of thing. Absolutely. Like I'm still super proud of the venues that we created and
of course.
Still exist, all of them. Right. And I think for me is the points of growth is probably where it slowed down because of that. Right.
So could have done more.
Yeah, exactly. And done the right things more quickly. So whether it was growing Falco a bit more quickly or putting it in a different spot or things like that, it was just like slow decision making meant that those things didn't happen.
Got it.
So now I feel like the effects are starting to show. And those venues are still great, like 100%, but could there be 7 Falcos? Absolutely.
Righto. Got it.
And also I'd sort of take a step back. And this is what I was kind of alluding to before about there can be having your mission set, talking about the pyramid really concisely and that everyone understands when you're going into running the business makes governance so much easier. But when you haven't set that, which we didn't as a group, we didn't really know what we were trying. Like, what was the governance layer and consistency? It's like, well, how are we growing?
Yeah, sure.
Like, how do we want 10 Falcos? Never had that conversation.
Right. Wow. Right? Never had that conversation.
No, it was always just about like, we'll grow it.
Okay.
Like,
wild.
Cool. Right. Which is a lot of people take that track.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, it needs to be these locations, production facility here and here, all these opportunities, have one at the MCG at one day, dream, blah, 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 that sort of thinking. But when you don't set that mission together and don't understand what your goals are, then the governance layer becomes really difficult.
So what you're talking about right now is going to resonate with a lot of people, right, that are in this almost exact situation, right, with their ownership groups. Like, why didn't you become that person who led the charge and started chairing the meetings? Like, what got in the way?
What got in the way? I think for me, it was probably the idea, like when we started Bar Liberty, I was 24.
Okay.
Right?
Fair excuse.
Fair excuse, right? Then it was a fair excuse.
Yeah, sure.
10 years later,
right,
not a fair excuse.
Fair, yeah.
And however, I feel like in that business, I always felt like the 24-year-old.
Okay. Right? That was the dynamic.
Yeah. And it was just like, hang on, I feel like I can do this. But you guys probably see me as the 24-year-old.
Okay. So personal dynamic.
I think just personal dynamic. And again, like misunderstanding of what each person's role really was in the business and what my role could be and all that sort of stuff. And I think if you haven't got that dynamic right, no matter what you put on paper from a governance perspective, if you haven't got the dynamic with those founders, right, then the governance layer is going to kind of suck.
This is good. So can we keep pulling on this thread?
Yeah.
So at that time, at the age of 24, as you're working through this stuff, there was a personal dynamic in place that created a bit of a barrier for you for doing what you intuitively thought should happen.
Yeah.
if you knew then what you know now. Let me ask you a real video podcast question.
Yeah, great. Snap this, guys.
If you could go back and talk to that 24-year-old version of yourself, what would you say?
Please don't clip in this.
Please don't cry.
Yeah.
Now, for real, what would you do differently then, knowing what you know now?
I think first of all, I wouldn't say don't do it. Like I learned so much across those 10 years.
Don't do what?
Like open the venues and go for it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think for me, I would have been more forthright and just been like, I'm the guy that wants to do this.
Yep.
I need to be allowed to do this.
Yep. So
right?
go past, overcome the personal dynamic barrier.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, I've always been in a lot of relationships in business or personal or whatever. I've always been the guy that tries to bridge worlds, right? And try to bring people together and be the mediator and be like that guy, right? And I was definitely that guy in that business where I was always just like trying to help everyone, but also not push anyone too hard because I felt bad. Whereas I think now 10 years later, I would have talking to younger me and being like, it's okay to tell people this isn't working.
Yeah,
it's
right.
okay to be like, you know what? For me to be fulfilled in this business and for the business to grow in the way I think it should, I need to be that person.
Right.
And having the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas I just felt like I didn't have the confidence to do it for so long.
Sure. So that's a great word for it, right? It's the confidence.
Yeah.
And it's just having that ability to go, fuck it, I'm going to rock the boat a little bit.
Yeah. And the confidence to say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to rock the boat a bit, but also saying, I'm going to have a crack. I'm not going to always get it right. And you don't need to label me as like, you know, you're trying to be the GM CEO, but you've never done it before. It's like, but no one's doing it.
Yeah.
We need to try.
But also
right.
It doesn't, you don't have to resort to one of the people at the table taking on that role either.
No.
Like at whatever stage you're at, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a couple months in and your business does 10 grand a week or if you're, 10 years in and you're doing 20 mil, there is always going to be people in your network that you could go, hey, I'll shout you dinner. Can you just come and chair this meeting for us?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, yeah, hell yeah. I would love to see what happens in that chat and I'll come along and do it. And if you don't know anyone that can do it, call us.
Yeah.
I'll come and do it, right?
Well, I think it comes back to that idea. There's certain people that even though they want a better, healthier business, will always look at that and be like, I don't want outside people looking at my stuff.
Right.
I think there's this big tension in hospitality, or maybe not big tension, in my head it can be, around IP. And I've always kind of laughed at it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, because it's like we cook for people.
Yeah.
And we make drinks for people.
Yeah.
And we take food and drink to table.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of complexity around that.
Yeah.
But in essence, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Right? Is there IP in that? Fuck.
Yeah.
Like
someone's going to copy me.
Yeah, exactly. So I just feel like there needs to be the unshackling or deshackling. Like just let's drop that.
Yeah, totally.
Like there's so much help out there that will completely change your world.
Yeah.
And if you let go of that idea of, I don't want people in my business looking at IP and that sort of stuff, get them to sign an NDA.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you want comfort,
it's pretty easy.
Do that
and
get people in to help.
That'd be pretty funny though. It's like, hey, can I shout you dinner to come and chair this meeting for me? And just on the way in, can you sign this NDA? Yeah. But also, I also agree with that, right? Like it's a bit of a fallacy to be like, showing external people, what's going on in my business. Like, are you not having your like financial accounts audited?
So this is, I literally spoke to someone the other day about this where I was like, you have probably a lawyer, you've got an accountant, you've got a HR advisor. Like you've got people that are already looking into your business.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have managers, general staff that know a lot about your business because they work there.
Yeah.
And guess what? They leave. And the first thing they do when they leave, they tell people what the business is like.
Yeah.
So inevitably that IP or info gets out there anyway.
Yeah. So I'll jump the gun a bit because I think it's a good segue, right?
Yeah.
But so decision making is one part of governance that is like, and I think we'll end up circling back to it, because there's crossover here. But one of the other big things that governance achieves in a business is trust, right? It builds trust. And it's not just for the internal stakeholders, it's for the external stakeholders too, because people outside your business that see you making decisions in a very deliberate way build equity in your brand.
I mean, it's why it's inconsistency, right?
Yeah.
It's like repeatable.
Yep.
Sound decision making that bleed through into the experience you have in the venue to what they see online on Google or on socials or whatever else. It's like it's obvious that it's governed.
Yeah. And it gives you that faith to get on board with brands that go out on a limb. Like you think about Nuttelex, right? Like the unofficial vegan product, right? Replacement to butter.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I was vegan for a bit, right? So loved that shit. But all of a sudden they come out with alternative milk.
Yeah.
All right. And it would be easy for people that don't trust that brand, just be like, the fuck, stay in your lane. What are you doing that for?
Yeah.
But if you do trust that brand,
you're in.
You're like, oh, why wouldn't I buy that?
Perfect.
Like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, governance helps you build trust outside your business because it's ensuring that you're doing things strategically, that you're not just, you know, flying blind or freewheeling it. But that goes even more so for the people inside your business. All right. When you can show people, like, okay, I can see how that decision was made and why it was made. I trust you.
Totally.
That is the inevitable outcome.
Yeah.
But if I'm just told in the monthly newsletter that we're doing this now, and it's like, okay, but there's no context around it, like, it's a bit harder for me to get on board, right? In some capacity. I'm not saying that it is like the be all or end all, but it moves the needle.
Yeah. And trust builds trust.
Yeah.
When people feel trusted both ways in business, then when things come up that are bad in business and a staff member sees it and they want to talk to someone about it, they trust that something's going to be done about it.
Yeah, there you go.
Whereas when you have poor governance and there's low trust, something bad happens in front of them, it's really unlikely it goes up the chain.
Yeah. So
that's why things fester and get really bad, as we've said. And
really political really quick.
Exactly.
So what you're talking about is, again, another thing that governance is statistically correlated to, which is trust.
Yeah.
So it's literally correlated to success, or I should say long-term success.
Yeah.
And it's also correlated to trust. So like it's kind of wild that, you know, there's statistics on this that prove it, but even just intuitively, right? Like if I ask you again, how have you experienced trust being built in either a board that you sat on, a project you were involved in, a business that you owned, as a result of good governance, or the other way, where was it eroded through bad governance?
I think through probably, I wouldn't say great governance,
okay,
but I'd say a high level of communication through the ownership team.
Yeah, but that is a version of
good governance. Yeah, exactly. And I would say probably the longevity of the team in the particular venue that I'm talking about, and how we're able to essentially pick out when spot fires happen, we're able to douse them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Rather than in the alternative to that is when spot fires are popping up and you kind of look at them for a while and you just kind of watch them burn. Right. And in the business I'm talking about, it was the ability to constantly see things pop up and be able to communicate back to the team in an effective and fast way.
Yeah.
And
huge.
I just feel like what I see a little bit and what I've been involved in as well, of when something bad happens, is the idea of like, all right, we need to meet about it and then we need to think about it. And then a week later, still nothing's been done. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that just erodes the trust in that team or person or whatever else. And it's really hard to come back from.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you do that on repeat, you end up in a pretty bad spot.
Okay. I'll give you a great example, which is purely anecdotal, but when COVID happened, I was like very immersed at Melbourne Business School. And so what was really cool, or what was, I was, you know, something to be really grateful for, is you got all these leaders in a, you know, pretty small cohort that are all trying to navigate this. And so I was having all these conversations with everyone about, hey, how are you dealing with this in your organization? And just an observation that I could make is in the businesses that had, you know, really good governance, right? So the businesses that had like no real conscious governance at all, like fucking good luck navigating that.
Yeah.
The sense of fear and anxiety across your team is just going to be so high that even if you're calling them every day, you haven't got the track record to just make them feel like, you know what, we're probably going to sort this out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's the organizations that had governance, but it either was really productive or it wasn't really productive. Those leaders, right? Like it was just so obvious, the ones that had productive governance functions, because the type of comms they were putting out, the type of buy-in they were getting, the discretionary energy that their employees were putting in, just the culture that they had throughout this period was fucking unbelievable. Like it brought people closer together. It gave them a real sense of connection, right? They had that trust was there because these people in the organization had experienced their leaders go through adversity and make sound decisions that were clear, that were explained, right? So they go, okay, well, we've experienced this before. This is another one of those.
Yeah.
So they're going to keep the communication open, and we don't know what the solution is, but they're working on it, right? We're going to figure it out, right? And I can have faith in that. For the people that were in businesses where, they had governance, but it was really not productive, nightmare.
Yeah.
Like it was just, they were so stressed out. They would just found it so hard. Like every time, their phone rang, it was just going to be like, oh man, what is this going to be?
Yeah.
Who knows where it's going to go? And yeah, it wasn't a moment of adversity that brought the organization closer together.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to harp too much on about COVID, but when that shit hit the fan, I was hearing things from past staff or friends or whatever that some of their leaders and bosses didn't say anything. They literally just didn't communicate.
Just head in the sand.
They just went phone off.
Oh, wow.
Like that's the extreme level.
Okay.
And I just think,
I mean, who knows what they were going through, but
of course, but we all went through it.
Yeah, sure,
right?
Sure.
But
crazy. Specific circumstances, but still, just for whatever reason, it's not, however you justify it, bad governance decision to just not say anything.
Totally, yeah.
In hospitality, you plan for a full house, but no shows still happen. Regulars walk in and go unrecognized. You're running blind on who's actually coming through that door. OpenTable gives you the visibility you're missing. Guest profiles so your team knows it's Sarah's 3rd visit this month. Real-time insights so you're staffing smart, not guessing. Automated confirmations that help reduce no-shows. The result? Help to fill more seats. Service that feels personal and a team focused on what they do best. Learn more today at opentable.com.au/restaurant-solutions. So the other thing, I mean, there was sort of 5 points, right, that sort of sum up why governance is important, right? So it's decision-making, strategy, protection from people, it builds trust, and it's correlated with success. I think we've done decision-making, building trust, and correlated with success reasonably well. I think strategy is pretty straightforward. Like any examples you can share about how strategy worked well or didn't work well on the back of governance performing well or not?
Strategy, yeah. I think at a board level, being able to, like I've sat on boards in different ways, whether it's my own board in different businesses or through nonprofit, also advising a tech startup and that sort of thing. So I've been able to see pretty wildly different setups from a board perspective, and then what just sort of success correlation is. I think for me, the example is probably when I was advising a board and showing that when we're able to have clear strategic days, meetings, whatever that looks like, and then having an outcome in mind before you go into that meeting and when you come out. And I think a lot of people, because hospitality is so hard for this, and this is probably definitely a big reason why governance generally isn't done well in an industry, is because we're on the clock every day.
Right.
It's like service starts at noon, service starts at 6 a.m. Service is always on, right? And it's really rare to be like, you know what, for 4 hours, we're going to go in a room and do some strategic work. Yeah. When you do say that and like, let's have a couple of hours of strategy for 2026, it's usually done quite informally. Yeah, right? Sure. I think I'd probably stress here is like what I've seen work extremely well is, saying 3 months out or a month out, hey, that date, block it off. We're all going to have a half day, right? Yeah. And the outcome of that half day is a 6-month strategy, a quarterly strategy, a 12-month, whatever that looks like. Know what you're going in for, and then doing it, and then coming out the other side with some clear actions to get on with. And it doesn't have to be a fancy deck. It doesn't have to be a crazy 40-page thesis like you would write. It just needs to be something that you go, you know what, we've all come together. We've thought about this. We've agreed on these actions, and we're going to come out the other side and execute. Yeah. And by doing that, I'll watch it happen time and time again. Is the success on the other side of it, because you've created something that's trackable. Yeah. And someone's accountable to it, or a group of people are accountable to it. Yeah. And then being able to do that and then do that on repeat is always going to yield success for the business. For sure. And I think the only thing I would add to that is that, like, strategy can be
like the 40-page document, it can also be written on the back of a napkin.
Totally.
Right, as long as it does one thing, which is that it galvanizes the focus of everyone, right? If it creates a collective focus, it creates a sense of collective prioritization, it's coherent.
Yeah.
So back of a napkin, whiteboard, 40-page fucking essay, whatever, right? It's all going to do the trick.
Yeah.
But what I think is the biggest pitfall is running into a specific year or quarter or any type of just period of time without a strategy is wild. And the amount of people that do it is crazy. That having that governance structure in place means you'll never do it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't allow you to go into any period of time without a clear plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, having the cadence on those meetings and strategies is the most important thing because you might do it like everyone gets, 1st of January fever and it's like new year, new me sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you want to dive right into it, which is great. But then what can you do to make sure that at the end of March or at the start of March, you're starting to talk about what does the next quarter look like?
Yeah, for sure.
Rather than doing that's why like gyms do sales in December for membership because no one starts a membership. Right. In January, no sales membership because everyone starts.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
New year.
Sure.
And guess what? By March, they're gone.
Yeah.
So January gyms suck.
Yeah, got it.
By March, it's quiet again.
It's quiet again.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
So we're getting dangerously close to the how to do it bit. And before we get there though, I don't want to miss protection from people.
Sure.
That's one thing that governance does really well because this is a really
protection from people. We're talking about like my cousins like helping us out here, or like what's protection from people?
It's funny, right? Because you could interpret this a bunch of ways, but what it specifically speaks to is that a lot of articles skirt around this and they put it quite politely.
Sure.
But ultimately, good governance protects you from the founder.
Sure.
So this would be a really good discussion because I think our career paths.
Yeah.
We've kind of had similar experiences in similar size entities and whatnot. Yeah. I've chaired a board though, so I got that up on you. But you have predominantly done it as a founder.
Sure.
And I've predominantly done it as an executive.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Which people think. So if I was to put that out there and be like, cool, a really good governance structure is going to protect you from the founder being a founder.
Yeah.
How would you defend yourself as a founder in that?
Oh, fuck. If I'm trying to think in terms of our dynamic, like I feel like.
Oh, you mean for PAX?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Yeah, just do it for PAX.
Go for it.
Fuck, bit dangerous here. I think for me, it's having someone that puts the guardrails up.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'll say some crazy shit that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I think you're quite good at going, great, but. Right. And I think it just like kind of brings me back down to earth a little bit.
Sure.
But you also have a bit of a crazy brain as well.
Yeah.
So you can kind of go off the other way sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think, like we said before, founders need to have a streak of being a bit irresponsible in a way to come up with crazy ideas. There's like 90% of the amazing shit we have in this world wouldn't happen without having founders. It would just be like, hell bent and be like, this is the thing and we need to build it this way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We wouldn't have Apple, right?
Exactly.
Those sort of legacy brands. However, there's a level of governance that needs to be sat around that founder to make sure they don't do the real crazy stuff and the things that are going to really risk the business.
Yep.
Right. And you'll read the Apple story or whatever, the Nike story, and you'll be like, oh my God, that's the way to run business. It's like, that's the 0.001% that went for the moonshot and made it.
Yeah.
Right? We're not talking about all the fucking rockets that died along the way. I think in the absence of someone like you in a business, that can happen because you just get a little bit too carried away.
Sure.
Without coming back and being grounded all the time.
I love the way that you put that, and I'll give you a different way of looking at it. For the life of me, I won't be able to point to the literature.
Sure.
So I'll just say this is my own observation.
Yeah.
But something that happens in businesses that is pretty easy to identify is think about it as if it's like a maturity journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just think about the way a business kind of grows up. Okay. And if you block it out into say revenue and time. Okay. So let's just say duration of the business is like 0 to 5 years. And in that time, it's 0 to 10 mil.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that give you a scaling point?
Totally.
All right. So in that first block, right, that's the most nascent period of business, right? That is full on bootstrap mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's the startup period. It is where you're not really writing anything down because the systems are changing every day.
Yeah.
Right. And in that environment is where founders do their best work.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because they are just taking risks that most people wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right. So what you need, right, the petrol that you need, the fuel to get that off the ground is a really, really high appetite for risk. Right. So in that first few years, when you're trying to gather that momentum, man, you need to have those inputs, right? You need that founder who's just going to come in and be like, we're doing this now because I'm just passionate about it and let's all fucking drink the Kool-Aid and go for it. And that energy gets you to that 10 mil 5-year mark.
Yeah.
Okay. But it won't keep you there.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you hit that 10 mil that 5-year 10 mil mark, roughly around those sort of, milestones, a business has to put on the big kid pants. Right. And at that point, there's actually too much to risk now. Like before you get to 10 mil, the stakes are probably just a little bit different.
Yeah.
But suddenly you get to a certain, even if you just think about it from a certain head count, right? If you're like, fuck, we've got more than 100 people now that we're responsible for.
Yeah.
Risk appetite has to change.
Yeah.
And so this is where governance really helps with that, right? Because you can get this right and you can get this wrong, right? Like what I've often seen traditionally, and there is definitely lots of literature on this, there's a great article in HBR called The Founder's Dilemma, which talks about this really well.
Great.
And you can get this wrong. So what tends to happen is a lot of organizations, they scale to this point where now the business is worth a lot of money and it's doing all these great things. And then the executive team come in, the board come in, and what do? They yoke the founder.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the first
you're
thing
getting in the way.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work out.
No.
Right. So you can go too far that way.
Yeah.
Or you can go to the point where it's just like the founder is the narcissistic leader and will just do whatever. And then it can, you're right. There's not enough guardrails around them protecting themselves.
Yeah.
The way I think about it is the founder is a really, really powerful battery. A really powerful battery. Right. And what governance needs to do is they need to plug it in the optimal way, because, if you don't plug that battery in a safe way, what's going to happen, right? It's either the battery's going to come along and fry the fucking mainframe, or it's not going to be getting that feedback loop and it's going to drain itself.
Yeah.
Either of those scenarios is bad, right? Like you want to be able to take that energy that only a founder can bring, right? That inspiration, that backstory, that vision, and you need to plumb it in, right? Plug it in a way where it's actually getting you the best risk to reward ratio in an optimal way. And if you get that counterbalance wrong, it can be pretty detrimental. So without a governance function, man, what chance have you got?
Yeah, it's crazy. I literally having this conversation a few weeks ago with someone that's about to start their first business.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, how do I start? Right. And I've always had the idea of set the bridge on fire and work out how to run across it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I said that to you when we started PAX.
You said it a few times.
And you're like, bro,
I'm like, red flag.
We've got 6 kids between us. We've got to chill out. But when you're just starting and the risk is low, essentially, it's like that's the mentality that I really want people to push and understand. It's like that's what you need. But eventually you need to work out how to build the bridge again. And that's where governance comes in.
Totally. Yeah. Well put. I think and let's get to what I think is going to resonate the most, right? How do you do this? So like I said, right, think of it in 2 ways, right? Number one is just do something, right? Just set up some type of deliberate, consistent process for governance, right? Whether it's just phone call to a mate every couple of weeks, or whether it is putting together an advisory board that you shout dinner every month, whatever it is, just do something, then refine it.
Yep.
Those are the 2 bits, right? And I think anyone listening to this who has never done it before, the just do something is going to be working really well.
Yeah.
To anyone who is kind of doing this but not getting the productivity, they're going to probably be like, well, yeah, I did just do something. It hasn't worked, you dickhead.
Yeah.
So it's great. Well, let's talk about how to refine it.
Yeah. I think it's I always use a fitness analogy here where people are again, new year, new me.
Yeah.
They're I'm just going to go to the gym. If they don't have the perfect
totally.
session, they're I failed.
Yeah, totally.
And then they drop off a cliff really quickly. And I'm really bad for that because if I wake up a bit late, I'll be like, well, I'm just not going to work out.
Yeah,
because I didn't get the right time.
Missed that, yeah.
Instead of 48 minutes, I trained for 30. That's not going to be good enough for me.
Right.
So I just won't do it.
As opposed to just do 30 minutes.
Just going for a run.
Yeah.
5Ks is better than 0Ks.
How about 1K?
1K is better than 0K. Honestly, just do it.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
All right. So let's stick to that, right? Let's go to the just do it section, right? If we start there, I think there's a spectrum still. So maybe let's go at both of these from the extreme ends of the stakeholders.
Yeah.
One's going to be owner-operator who doesn't even have a good relationship with his head chef or her head chef. And then the other end is going to be, so pretty isolated.
Yeah.
The other one's going to be running a pretty big group, doing a fair bit of annual revenue. There's a leadership team, and no real governance.
Sure.
Which one do you want to do? Let's pick.
As the example.
Yeah.
The small one.
You want to go the small one? Okay, I'll go the big one. So then let's talk about if you're processing that, just do something.
Yeah.
You're the small owner operator. What is the best next steps to take after listening to this podcast?
If I'm a sole operator, definitely the best step, if you're going to do, I'm going to say two things, right? Number one being what you have alluded to and spoken about already is find someone external to the business.
Yeah.
Again, like if you're in the industry, chances are you got friends that are also owners or has been successful in other business. Hit them up.
Find a trusted advisor.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really nervous about asking for help as an owner.
Sure.
Because owners think they're just meant to know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay not to know.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, can I get a hand? I think it's probably what has led to some sort of success for me is I've always been like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, can you give me some advice?
And I'm so fine with asking.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
So do that, definitely.
Yeah.
And get
find a sounding board.
Find a sounding board, get some cadence in that.
Yeah, and do it regularly.
And do it regularly.
Yeah.
Number two, and we haven't even uttered the word AI
yet. Dangerous.
But I think it could be a whole other episode in terms of how we use it.
Yeah, I just think it risks like emphasizing or enhancing the echo chamber.
No. Like this is the important thing for me. It's like find the external person, real life person.
Oh, sorry. You've done that.
You've done that.
Okay, got it. Step 2 is refining it.
Step 2 for me is like the tools that are available to us now that weren't available 10 years when I started in business are wild.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And just take AI for example.
Yep.
And I'm going to talk specifically about the usage of it to keep your own cadence, right? Because when you get to that meeting with that person that you've chosen and has said yes, you've got the right material.
Yeah, got
right?
it. Yeah.
And AI now, you can use it in a way that is really simple. You don't have to geek out about it. All you need to do is once a week is voice record yourself.
Yeah, sure.
And just rant at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be coherent.
Yeah.
It's the most important thing. People think the input needs to be perfect. It's
I need to do a TED talk.
You can blabber for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Do that once a week. When you have that monthly with that person, all you need to do is go into ChatGPT and say, summarize the last 4 weeks.
The most important headlines.
Exactly. Yep. And there'll be stuff that gets pulled out. You've kind of forgotten about it, but is important. And there's your agenda.
Yeah.
Just, they're very simple things.
Love that.
And I think being organized going into it and knowing what you're talking about means you're just going to have a much better, more optimized meeting.
Yeah, I love it. So find someone to soundboard with, do it regularly, and then prepare for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Prepare for the chat.
Totally.
Yeah, no matter what that looks like.
Simple.
Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Okay, so going to my end or the higher end of things, which is, bigger group, you know, effectively need to put a better, more responsible governance structure in, start by building an advisory board.
Yeah.
Okay, and that can sound daunting. It's really not, right? You put up one social post, you put up something on your LinkedIn, and just say, hey, I'm looking to build an advisory board for my group. Sing out if you'd be interested. And what I think a lot of people mistake is that they think, no one who's worth being on the board is going to have the time for this, and it's actually so not true, because anyone who's really good at what they're doing, right? Anyone who's trying to like excel in the leadership space, man, everyone needs, right? Not just wants board exposure.
Totally. Yeah.
And it was like, hey, well, you can get in on the ground floor here. We're not going to pay you because we don't have money for that, but here's a seat at the table, right? We'll shout you dinner once a month, right? Come in and, here's what all you have to do is just weigh in, right? So building an advisory board is massive because, you're always going to find people that will put their hand up to join you in that conversation. It's not like just open slather and just grab the best in, best dressed or whatever it is. It's like you got to actually have a bit of curation.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an interview process.
It is, yeah, but you don't necessarily even have to go to that length, provided you nail one role.
Mhm.
Okay, so in that group, so let's just say the ideal amount of people is probably 4 to 6, right? Anything more than 6 it's just going to be a logistical nightmare.
Too hard, yeah.
So even if it's 4, right, like that's totally fine, but you have to have a chair. There has to be someone who chairs that meeting for the group.
Yeah.
That person you might have to additionally incentivize.
Yeah.
Okay, but that person is absolutely critical because they are going to be the conduit between you and the rest of the board.
And I was going to say, it can't be you.
It can't be you,
Yeah.
right? Because you'll game it.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to, and like I said, that stakeholder has to have at least half a degree of separation from the business. But they have to be able to curate the agenda. So how can they do that if they don't have a really good line of sight into everything that you're dealing with as an operator? So you got to make sure that if that chair role is nailed and you are doing the work, you're meeting with them once a week to keep them informed. You know, there's a monthly meeting. So 2 weeks out, you're planning the agenda, you're nailing it before it happens. You're following up with them afterwards and making sure the minutes were all good and the decisions were all blah, blah, blah. As long as you nail that role, it takes pressure off everything else.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why, right? Because then if you say you're dealing with an advisory board of 4 people, but you nail the chair role, the other 3 have a crack, right? Go with whatever you think. And if it's working really well, awesome. If it doesn't, the chair will sort that out.
Yeah.
Right? And they will let people off the board and bring people on. And you've got someone that's not you looking after that. So absolutely, step 1 is build an advisory board. It's not that hard. Right? It really isn't. These aren't a group of people that can get sued if things go wrong, right?
Sure.
It's just advice. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of like other intricacies that you can put in play there around like, you know, a charter and understanding group dynamic and whatnot. But again, if you just nail that chair role, then everything else will work really, really well.
Yeah.
So the last bit I'll give you on that, and actually maybe I can take this into the refinement of it. So first step, just how to do it, get a group of people together, and just meet every month, right? And within that, nail the chair role, you'll be absolutely laughing. Anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, to that. I think around the people, like I feel like experience in different areas is super important. That then correlate directly to your business. And if you can, having someone that is just not in industry, I think is quite good.
Okay, so in that point, I mean, I'm trying to like set it up in a way where there's no, it's not laborious to go and find and recruit.
Yeah.
So, but if you did have the ability to be a bit picky and choosy, then I'd say the best thing to do is build a bit of an org chart, right? Not like a hierarchy, but more from the sense of like, what are the roles that we want on the board?
Yeah.
Because say the foundership team are just all amazing marketers. You probably don't need a marketing person on the board.
No.
But you probably do need a culture person.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe you do need an impact person.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever that is, right? So you sort of curate and go, okay, here's the roles that we want to get, and then you go and recruit for them.
Yeah.
So if you have that luxury, amazing. But if you don't and you just need to get something going, just get everyone in. And as long as you nail the chair role, then you'll be looking pretty good. Okay, so that's setting it up. Pretty straightforward. I just think that covers a wide spectrum because for the people that are kind of in the middle where they're like, well, we're not going to build an advisory board. And I'm probably too big now to just be randomly ringing someone every couple of weeks even with a prepared agenda. How can you hybrid that? You know, and what I'd say to those people in the middle is, man, you can just literally, you don't have to put together a full advisory board, but maybe you can take that trusted advisor that you would call. Maybe you can take someone who's, you know, been a part of businesses that have scaled maybe to 2 scaling points of where you're aspiring to be. And maybe it's just you and your business partner and these 2 other people having dinner once a month.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Right. And then of those 4, try to eventually get someone to chair it, you know, and be like, hey, would you be willing to be responsible for, you know, running these meetings? Within the second one, someone's going to surely put their hand up.
Yeah.
And if they don't, get someone else in. But it's just that sort of takes away some of the stigmas or the uncertainty or even the cynicism around advisory board and, you know, board charter and all that sort of thing. It's just going, hey, if you're somewhere in the middle, just make sure there's a frequent chat with a group of people from outside the company. Okay, so let's just say you've done that. How do you optimize it now? Let's go small scale end again. So you've started ringing that person every fortnight. You're asking ChatGPT, you know, to curate the agenda for you.
Yeah.
What if it's still not working? Why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it be? I think because it might be the wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah, is probably the number one thing.
Yep.
I think people in this situation might make the mistake of finding someone that is a bit too much like AI, where they just pat you on the back all the time.
Oh, yeah, right. The halo effect.
That's right, Michael. Yeah. That sounds right.
You're amazing.
You're awesome. And yeah, you just don't get the feedback, harsh feedback.
Okay.
Like you need to get the right person that's going to just say it straight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you find those conversations with that person are just a little bit like a sounding board and there's nothing coming back the other way, then like you should be challenged.
Yeah.
And it should be a bit uncomfortable sometimes.
Totally.
I think the idea of not having hard conversations is a good thing, is a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just like you need to have some challenging conversations in this. So I think, definitely look at someone else to come in and help you.
Yep. So switch it up.
Yeah. And when you're doing that vetting or that casual vetting of people, think about people who'd be like, oh, that person always pulls me up on shit. It's like when that person comes in for a bad coffee, they'll tell me and they'll let me know about it.
Yeah. That's who you want.
That's who you want. Yeah.
So pick it up a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Increase the discomfort level.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
That's definitely a big one.
Love that.
And then
so solid.
In terms of the preparation, like amping that up, just do more voice dumps.
Okay.
and get feedback from other people as well.
Yeah.
So get your managers or your head chef or whatever. It's like start getting them to do it and feeding it to you.
Yeah.
And it's about, for me, creating communication layers upwards. And if you start to do it with yourself to this person you're soundboarding with and then get them to do it as well to you, your managers, then you're just going to have a bigger representation of data to then work from. And you're going to learn things that you didn't know.
Yeah. Really good. Love that. If we go to the other end of the scale where it's like, okay, you've got an advisory board and you know, you guys are meeting once a month and you've even nailed the chair position, but it's just not working.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to those meetings and you're feeling a sense of like, I don't know if that was very productive.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's a really, really clear toolkit for this. Okay, so the first thing, there's a few elements of it, right? Number one is you want to monitor the information that's going in. Okay, and one thing that can happen in really unproductive boards or where the chairperson isn't nailing their role is that the conversation just quickly goes into day-to-day problems that we want to fix.
Yeah.
And they get really granular and then everyone's trying to chime in and the dynamic's all wrong and you just go around in circles and you're solving the wrong problems. Right? And you can fix that with a really good agenda template, right? So an agenda template that clearly shows where the decisions are that need to be made. It can be, we need decisions on these things in this meeting. These things are just, I just want your input. These things are just an update. Like that's really, really important to set that up right. It's also really important to make sure that people have all the information they need to make a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not providing that ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then what happens,
really
right?
reactive, right?
Yeah, well, you get into the meeting and it's like, okay, great. We've got 17 minutes now to go to this next agenda item, but it needs 16 and a half minutes of background explanation. Yeah. You know, so things like that are just really basic, right? Like look at the agenda, look at the information going in, figure out how to optimize that. But the thing that no one spends enough time talking about is group or team dynamic and assessing that and going, how effective are we being as a team? Right. And how do we know when we're being like that?
Yeah.
Right. These are really important. So sometimes, you know, you can put a board together and everyone just wants to get stuck in.
Yeah.
But the first meeting you have should be talking about no business.
Yeah.
It should just be talking about what are our roles here?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your social role and what's your functional role? They're really different things, right? What's your personality type? Like, let's figure out what all our Enneagram types are and then see where we're light or where we're heavy. Right, where are we going to be predisposed to bias, right? So the group dynamic thing is massive. If you run a really good session, and it's hard work because it can be quite confronting.
Yeah.
But if you run that session, it doesn't even matter if you don't facilitate it well, you will increase the dynamic of the group, right? Yep. You'll make it better, right? You'll make the harder conversations easier to have and you'll create clarity and galvanization. So that I think can be an artifact of running that well is that you'll come up with a charter. That's effectively what I'm driving at, right? It's like you put that advisory board together, create a charter. It doesn't have to be a 10-page document that everyone signs like it's a constitution. It can just be a couple of paragraphs. This is who we are. This is what we're trying to achieve. This is what good looks like. This is what we do when there's conflict. This is how we make decisions. Whatever, right? Just keep it generic. But if you can put together a bit of a charter that sort of guides everyone on the board as to how we're going to be a successful team, you're laughing. Right? right? So then the other bit from that is like just going deeper into the role thing, right? Like as the founder or the person who's, reporting to the board, you need to be really ensuring that you're reviewing your relationship with the chair. No one else can really do that. Other people can point it out. They're like, I feel like these meetings aren't as productive as they could be. Are you guys talking enough? But you're the only one that can really assess it. So always be scrutinizing that, I think, is a really, really important piece of it. And the last bit is just thinking about that dynamic, right? Sometimes it's hard for executives that have just, had their own way for a long time, or owners or founders, to actually deal with that dynamic of, I'm actually reporting to someone.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
Be able to take off that hat where it's like, I'm the one making all the decisions to, now I'm actually reporting to people. You need to find a level of comfort with that.
It's a huge leap for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I understand why. It's like you've been the person for a long time, but the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, hang on, I own this business.
Yeah.
Now I report to someone?
Yeah. And they're telling me I shouldn't do that?
Yeah.
How about I just do it?
How about you get
Yeah. So you need to be managing your own shit when it comes to that, and being willing to go, no, that's the whole reason I've put these guardrails in place is to feel that discomfort. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is if you're not the founder, you're like an executive, man, involve your team.
Yeah.
Right? It's one of the dumbest mistakes you can make is to go, I'm the conduit. I gather all the information from my leaders and then I go and talk to everyone in the board. It's like, mate, bring them in, get them involved. They don't have to be there for the whole thing. But if you can get them comfortable reporting at the board level with certain items, it's just going to increase the amount of, insight and information that comes through, which increases the level of decision making.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say on it is review the decisions that get made.
Yeah.
Incorporate that into your meeting to go, this was the decision we made last month. Here's how it went.
Yeah.
Let's score it out of 10.
Yeah.
How do we feel like it went? How do you think we went as a group making that decision? Oh, it was a 7. Okay. What do we need to do to get it to an 8?
Yeah.
And constantly be reviewing it. And I think it makes a massive, massive difference.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, we'll wrap that up there. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being on, Michael, and sharing some of your experiences. Got to say real quick to everyone that's written to us, that's emailed us, thank you. We love hearing from you. That's kind of why we do what we do. We're trying to help people with businesses so they can enjoy their lives more and enrich the communities around them. So hearing from people and helping them troubleshoot is awesome. So please hit us up. Whether you've got feedback, input, an idea, something you're working through, like we might even read it out on the show. But hello@pax.melbourne is the email.
Correct.
So hit us up anytime. Keen to hear from you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.